So hi, I'm Jonny John. Today I want to talk about how to address the suffering states of the mind. How do we address the anger, the impatience, the fears, so that we do not have to experience them again? How do we make the journey into the darkness of the mind and illuminate it? Well, the answer is with knowing. Knowing what? It's about knowing yourself. Knowing how the mind works, knowing the consciousness, knowing the reactions behind your actions, knowing the course of your thoughts, knowing the creator of your creation. This is how you make progress into addressing your sufferings. Now you may be wondering, how does knowing of the self has anything to do with addressing sufferings? Well, let me give you an example. If you want to fix your health, you have to study the subject, which is related to your health, which is nutrition. And likewise, suffering begins in the mind, so the subject is the self. You have to develop the knowing of yourself. And this is really important, especially if you want to address it at the deepest level, so you do not have to experience them again. To live without fears, without anger, that is our destination. And often, most people are not developing the knowing of the self. But this is important because this is the biggest crucial step in self-transformation. Without this, self-transformation cannot happen. Maybe that's why transformation is not really happening for most people. And this knowledge has to come from the level of your experience, not from book knowledge, not from me telling you or other people telling you, but from your own level of experience. Because there's a difference in power between book knowledge and experienced knowledge. Let me give you an example. So a few years back, I was working at this meditation center, and I talked to an Indian guy. He told me about his workplace. So for 30 years, he worked at this place. He enjoyed the work, but not the people whom he worked with, because they had weird ways of working. You know, we all know those colleagues who were too lazy or too bossy. But eventually, he was able to let go of his anger. So I asked him, how? Did you use a technique? And he told me he didn't use a technique. It was just simply through working with him, he gradually realized that everyone had a different way of working, including himself. So this gradual realization led to transformation. Now this is his experience knowledge. It had the power to transform, only to him, but not for us. For us, it's simply book knowledge, perhaps just enough to inspire. So it's important to develop the knowing of the self at the experiential level, and this knowing can naturally come from simply living a life. Because each passing moment, we're learning something new about ourselves. But maybe just a little bit, if we don't put in effort. I mean, hearing the guy's story, suffering 30 years just to release his anger by a bit, just sounds a bit too long for me. But that's what will happen if we don't apply any effort into knowing ourselves. So it's a good idea to put effort so we don't have to suffer for too long. So in this video, we learned that the journey of addressing our suffering states of the mind begins and progresses with knowing of the self. Now, how do we develop the knowing of the self? I will cover this in the next video.